Understanding your needs and challenges, what makes your future safer and more successful, that is what engages us. That's what we are best at. To be able to foresee or prevent what may happen, the complexity and relationship between various factors in the event of an incident must be understood. At Alandia Loss Prevention, we consider every eventuality with a human perspective. We are a well-groomed team with knowledge in human factors, global shipping, ship management, and marine insurance. Alandia is a marine insurance entrepreneur with large resources and extensive expertise. We provide you with precise and accurate analyses. On a solid foundation, with more than 80 years of experience in marine insurance, our client promise is to meet the highest level of risk management needs.
Welcome to today's Lessons Learned webinar. The theme for today is safe mooring, and we have a broad range of experts with us today to discuss what they have learned in this subject. Let me introduce to you today's moderator that will guide the panelists, Alandia Senior Loss Prevention Manager and my colleague Martti Simojoki.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, depending where you are. It's my pleasure to welcome everyone to this lesson learned webinar on safe mooring, and really proud we have the largest panel ever. And being such a key and important topic, we could do no less than have the best experts in the world today with us. And with this short introduction, we have a great panel with 10 different experts. And in order to save time, I just ask everyone to present themselves shortly, to tell a little bit who you are, where you come from, your background, and a little bit about your organization. And I start with Mikael Hilden. He's on to my port side in the view. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Martti, and thank you for inviting me here. And it's great to be on the panel today. My name is Mikael Hilden. I'm a master mariner, worked as a captain for the last 22 years, all in all 40 years plus at sea. And the last 2 years I worked with Sea Smart as an instructor and assessor in Almere, Holland, or the Netherlands. Today I'm independent maritime consultant. So thank you.
Thank you, and welcome to our panel. And to my starboard side, I have Håkan Herlin from Sweden. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Martti. Yes, my name is Håkan Herlin from Sweden. Right now I'm working in Swedish Maritime Administration as a project leader for a project. Before that, I have been a pilot 7 or 8 years in Stockholm Archipelago, and my background before that has been on board mostly rural vessels and cruise ships. Thank you.
Thank you, Håkan. And the farthest right on the fairway, I have Mr. Christoph Werner. Please.
Yeah, hello, good afternoon from Hamburg. My name is Christoph Werner. I'm working in shipping since almost 36 years. I have a nautical background as a master mariner, and after my active seagoing career, I came ashore and had various positions within Classification Society Germanischer Lloyd. And later I was working for companies like Blue Star, E.R. Schiffert, and Seaborn. And my latest role there was that of a senior vice president, being in charge for the Marine and Quality Department while we were managing up to 150 ships, tankers, general cargo, container vessels, and bulkers. Presently, I'm working as a maritime consultant.
Thank you very much, and welcome to the panel. And on midships on port side, I have Per Lundholm.
Yeah, hey everyone, Per from Sweden. I'm working in Wallenius Marine as a chief officer and sometimes temporary position as captain. I've been in Wallenius Marine for 30 years now and start sailing in early 80s. So and sailing in all positions on deck. Yep. That's all.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
And on the midships, I have Frank Björklund.
Yes, hello everybody. My name is Frank Björklund from Finland and working at the moment as pilot been working 1 year as pilot here in the southwestern part Archipelago Sea. And before that, I first started on general cargo vessels and ro-ro vessels, and then 20 years almost on passenger ship. Last position was captain on Viking Line's Viking Express. That's it.
Right, welcome. And to my starboard midships, Anders Nylander.
Yeah, hello everyone. Anders Nylander. I'm also working on Wallenius Marine and have been there since '98. And the last 2 years I have been as a marine superintendent in the office. And before that I was sailing around 10 years as a master on the car carriers. Thank you.
Welcome. And to the starboard side of the fairway, Georg Hase.
Yeah, good day to everybody. Hello, Marty. Yeah, my name is Georg Hase. I have a background as a captain on chemical tankers, 15 years experience as a pilot. And for the last 10 years, I am managing director of Nautitech, a training center in the northwest of Germany. I have also experience as a superintendent in a gas tanker company here in Leer and working in vetting issues and quality department.
Okay, welcome, Georg. And on the port quarter, we have a Captain Friedsam.
Yeah, hello everybody. My name is Dirk Friedsam. I'm harbor pilot at the port of Bremerhaven since about 10 years. Since 1 year, I'm the vice chairman of the harbor pilots Bremerhaven. Yeah, maybe a little bit to our pilot company. We are 31 harbor pilots working at the port. Yeah, the port is the second largest cargo port in Germany. We have 5-kilometer long container terminal for all sizes of container vessels. The biggest hub for ro-ro cargo in Germany. Yeah, several repair docks, 5 locks. Yeah, and I'm happy to be here.
Welcome, a pleasure to have you. And on the midships, aft, Rudy.
Yes, hello. I have some connection problems, but I suggest it was my name. I heard. Yeah, thanks for the invitation in this group. Yeah, my name is Rudolf Kreuzer. I'm also master mariner, long seagoing experience since nearly 20 years now. I'm at the University of Applied Science in Leer. We run STCW master's license. We have a cooperation with Haugesund in Norway for a master study program, and my fields of engagement are everything which deals with safety, quality, and ship handling. And so this is the topic, and I'm pleased to hear what will happen today. Yeah, thanks.
Very happy to have you. And last but not least, on my starboard quarter, Captain Boris Chesnik.
Hello, good day. Apologize for my delay. I'm sorry. Now I'm here with you. Background is Master Mariner, now Managing Director, Poluda, Germany. We operate 28 taxi in German ports.
Right. Pleasure to have you all here with us. And we have a very ambitious plan for today. We try to cover 4 topics, very important to safe mooring, ship handling, and pilotage and tug operations. And the first part would be a ship handling, and questions like who actually maneuvers the vessel, who is in charge of the vessel is probably very clear, but when it really comes to the maneuvering, who is actually doing it? And my role today is more to fuel the discussion and try to keep track of the time. So on the maneuvering part, who wants to go first? I see lots of keen smiles here, but maybe I should appoint someone. Mikael, you go first.
Yeah, I could start briefly. Of course, out at sea we have. I'm coming from the cruise industry. We often have two officers on watch, and we have a navigator, a co-navigator. They of course maneuver the ship at sea under directions of the captain within the BRM, MRM policies of the company, and normally they have the right, and they use the engines, thrusters, whatever they need for safe navigation, whatever necessary, following a plan that is already approved and discussed. When we come to port, it's quite often the captain who maneuvers, or on cruise ship staff captain. However, it's more and more we give the actual maneuver possibility to lower ranking officers, just to teach them as well, and normally the captain steps aside. So as a start.
Okay, thank you very much. And could I ask you, Georg, to come with you? I know that you're a very modest man, and you didn't mention that you do the planning for the big cruise ships that are floated out from Papenburg. And I think you have an eye and an idea of vessel maneuvering, and what would be your perspective?
Yeah, I know this mostly from my perspective as a pilot, which is a few years gone now, but Captain Friedsam, I think, will follow my idea that you cannot give a general answer on that. You see both sides. You see very skilled crews with captains who very hardly give maneuvering elements to a pilot and do mostly themselves. But you see also, on the other hand, captains who are simply not able to perform any maneuver and totally rely on pilots' advice. So yeah, there are both sides, and of course in cruise ships the quality is certainly mostly very high. Yeah, whereas there are some doubtful cases, I would say, where it's not much knowledge involved. And yeah, just to follow on that, for my personal opinion, it's not a problem if a captain gives the maneuvering in the hands of a pilot. The most dangerous people are people who believe that they can handle their ship, and yeah, they drive it into a near miss and then hand it over to a pilot. Say, now you can continue. So the best is if in front of the maneuver it's clear who is doing the duty and how it is done, and from that point it can be managed in a safe way.
Okay, thank you. And Captain Friedsam, you were mentioned in. Do you have a take on this?
Yes, I have. Just a moment. Yes, I have. Yeah, I fully agree with Captain Hase. It's not too easy to say exactly who is in charge. Basically, it depends on the captain. Yeah. So we have, in my point of view, there are two cases when it comes closer to the shore. So in a port, you either have the captain maneuvering, you have the pilot maneuvering, or a combination out of 1 and 2. Normally, we ask the captain first if he wants to do the maneuver, especially when the smaller ships, well-equipped ships, are to be piloted. Most of the time, when tugs come into the maneuver, we usually the pilot is doing the maneuver, and yeah. And number 3, what I said, is combination of 1 and 2. That's possibly the most problematic situation or problematic combination in respect of borderline situations. When you have strong wind, for example, and limited possibilities for the ship, or maybe only one tug instead of having two. Yeah, but and there was a second point of Captain Hase. This was about who is or a few, I don't remember exactly, who is in charge of the maneuver. I mean, this can be done completely to, or the responsibility of the captain can be transferred, yeah, sometimes completely to the pilot, but also is done partly. Yeah.
Right, thank you. Now we heard one captain and two pilots. Shall we try to maintain the balance? And Anders or Per, do you have a take on this?
I can say some word. I'm sailing mostly as a chief officer, and we are going around the world. So just the ship handling on board the vessel depends of the captain. Most of the time, captain or the chief officer will handle the vessel together with the pilot. But in some ports, the pilot want to do everything by themselves. And in some parts of the world, the capacity of the pilots is very poor, especially in Asia, I will say. And that could be really demanding because of language. They don't understand English good. And also the pilots handle the tags. And we don't know on board what the tags doing because the pilots talking just the local language and so on. So it's different a lot where we are in the world. So it's a tricky question actually. So you have to, depending where we are in the world, we have to handle the ship on different way, I would say.
Okay, thank you for that. And I see, Michael, you have your hand up.
Yes, and I try to get the hand away soon. I agree with Per sailing around the world there, but also with George and Dirk. I fully agree that the pilot needs to be a part of the team there, and everyone needs to understand who is actually maneuvering the ship. Otherwise, there might be some tricky situation. Northern Europe, where I have sailed, and also with the cruise ships I have been on, we normally sail to same ports week after week. We know the pilots, they know us, they know how we plan it. And the last time during my stretch at SeaSmart, we also invited pilot there to see how SeaSmart teaches the operating lines and the way, and clearly the pilot is a very, very important part of that operation. Whether they take part in the actual maneuver and do the maneuver, or just verbally assisting there, but that is normally agreed. In the trade I have been, I fully understand they mentioned about some small ships where they are not 100% sure whether the competency level of the bridge officers or captain is high. Then of course there might be some struggle there, especially if we have some officers that have too macho style and things that might lead to problems. But I agree with George and Dirk that it's utmost important that the pilots are a part of that team, whoever is maneuvering.
Okay, we have one more minute to go on this topic, and yeah, Georg, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's important to mention we have a lot of experience with casualty analyses, and we also try to assist pilots in many times when yeah, small or bigger issues that happen. And you have to always to watch the legal side, that the captain is always in charge legally. And we see more and more tendency that it is tried to bring the pilot within the game as soon as he's operating maneuvering handles. And that people say that once the pilot is operating the wheel, let's say, then he's also in charge. And this is a very difficult thing. Yeah, there are many cases similar like that are going on, and the pilot has to be very careful that he's not thrown towards a legal thing what he doesn't want.
Okay, thank you. And Christoph, go ahead.
Yeah, I just can underline what Georg said, and all in my time during my jobs in the previous companies, we were very clear in that policy. As I said, we had up to 150 vessels of all kinds in a worldwide trade, and we had to find a unique way how to handle this. And we were very clear, the master is always in charge, and he's handling the vessel under supervision of the pilot. So we never agree that the pilot handed over the master, unless he's going to the Panama Canal, of course, to the pilot, or that the pilot handles the bow thruster, engine control, whatsoever. This was always done by the master. And as Georg said, the master is always the one who was taken to the harbor master's office for interview after something went wrong, not the pilot in certain parts of the world. So that's our experience, and therefore I fully share the view, masters in command.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other comments on this topic, or shall we move on the next one?
Maybe just quickly from our perspective as a tug operator, and just as a confirmation, for example, we wouldn't accept a maneuver without a pilot being in charge on the VHF and advising the tugs. That's necessary for us. And then we had the opposite case, of course, a vessel without a master in charge in the past and also presently on projects when we have barges where there's no master on board but a pilot. Then we had in the past already the discussion also from the pilots, of course, the wish there must be someone responsible also for connecting the tugs. So then you come to the function of a tow master. So that's a good opposite scenario where you can see why and where you need a master for responsibility.
Okay, thank you for that. And our next topic is actually, thank you for bringing that up, tug operations. And we could actually approach this on two different ways, and maybe a little bit challenge each other in a positive way, that you in certain conditions you need tugs, and it's good for the safety, and you should use the tugs and all that. And then on the other side, you could also argue that that when you use the tugs, you actually complicate the operation. You have one more or two more things to coordinate apart from the maneuver and the MRM elements on the bridge. You have also the tug communication, and in cases, as Per mentioned here, that maybe you are not using the common language, that maybe you use a local language with the tugs, and then you communicate with another language on the bridge team, and that could and perhaps increase the or complicate things. And I'm really looking forward to hear what the panel has on this one. Maybe Rudy, you haven't said anything about the MRM part yet, so maybe you want to go first.
Yes. Okay. MRM in this case. So first of all, regarding tug operations, I'd suggest the pilot is the one who knows the tugs best, and what we see from our training perspective, that nowadays we don't have only two screw tugs. We have different or various type of tugs. We have ASD, we have rotor, and they have different potential. So they have strong maneuver and weak maneuvers, and it's only the pilot in most cases who knows how to use these tugs in a perfect way. And I would always recommend what I see, that also masters should have more knowledge about how to what are the
the goes and the no-goes with certain type of tags. This is not an MRM perspective only in one regard when we talk about shared mental models, so that the pilot and the master both should know if they have, for example, they have a Voigt Schneider tag, what is where they are useful and where they are not so useful. And this is where I always feel something, there's a mismatch, that the masters are not really aware what are the capability of the tags.
Okay, thank you. And I see Christoph is with the hand up.
Yeah, right. Actually, tag operation is a very important part during docking and undocking. And when I looked into collisions that happened in the past, at least in my previous companies, it mostly had something to do, of course, it's under pilotage, of course, but then with tug operation. And I fully agree that there's a lack of knowledge about tugs or tug operation within the acting masters. And if I remember during my studies, it was never mentioned what kind of tugs are there and how to use a tug. So to learn more or to get a better knowledge will help to be on the same level with a pilot to discuss maneuvering in port. It certainly will help, because there's a second point which I realized is that even if the communication between the master or the bridge team and the pilot happens in English, and this works quite well, the communication between the pilot and the tugs is always, or in most cases, in the national language, which for sure cannot be followed going to China, going to Spanish ports, wherever, by all the masters. And this is something which, from my point of view, will not change. The pilots will have a certain knowledge of language, of English language. They can communicate, and then the bridge team, of course, can communicate with the pilot. But following the communication between the tug and the master is a challenge. And if you don't have, as a master, the knowledge, at least to ask the pilot the exact question, then it's not the same level to agree on a safe maneuver to berth unders.
Okay, thank you for that. And I see Mikael and then Captain Fritzen.
Yes, I fully agree with Rudolf there, and also Christoph. Absolutely, I just wanted to say the same thing, that I fully agree that the captains and the senior officers, whoever, maybe all deck officers, have to have a basic knowledge about tug operation, because how can you otherwise ask for the assistance you know you need? And then if you ask for something that the tugs can't do, and the pilot says in any local tongue, give an order to the tugboat that is not really what the captain asked, then we have a problem there. So if everything is in English, you might realize that, okay, the tugboat got a different command than I wanted, then you can correct it. But if you go to a country where they don't speak the same language, you have issues. So even there, already there, you need to know the basic of tugboats, how you can operate, and I fully agree with that. So that's what I want to say.
Thank you. And Captain Fritzen?
Yeah, I also agree with the others. I just wanted to add here that it's from my experience, seagoing experience, and also also the experience in Bremerhaven, is that it will be very difficult to standardize the tugboat communication in English, because on the different ports or different areas of the world, there are special commands to tugboat masters, and there are all sorts of different maneuvers, which makes it quite difficult. And especially when we come to some that's so near or almost emergency maneuvers, when we are at the limit, let's say shortly before we have an accident, then most people, they will fall back into their national tongue, and that makes it also so difficult. But when we look at the proper made master pilot exchange, All these things should be sorted out. And we, or especially I, when I do a pilotage, one of my points will be always to tell the captain that, okay, in case you have any problem or any question, always ask me and I will give you the proper explanation, what is going on, what orders I have given to a tugboat. And that's very important. I see a lot of captains, they just standing next to you in the maneuvers and they don't ask a question. Maybe they're clear on what's going on, but sometimes I really have the feeling that a lot of them are not clear. They just give it over in the hands of the pilot. And there my suggestion or my proposal to all seagoing personnel would be, don't be afraid to ask. Yeah, there are no stupid questions. Yeah, it's only stupid not to ask. Yeah, and that works for your whole life, and it works also in seagoing.
Yeah, thank you for that. I tend to tell people around me that there's no stupid questions, only stupid answers. So keep asking. And Rudy, please go ahead.
Yeah, I will just reflect on this English, the communication between ship and tug, and I suggest it's everybody has the wish that or wants that their communication will be in English, but I think it will never happen because just from the legal point, if you have a license as a tug master, it might be a national license, and so there is no English requirements at all. So we have to accept the fact that they will talk in national language even in 5 to 10 years, and I will agree what Mr. Friedsam said. It's important that the master in advance, I'd call it challenge and response, just challenges the pilot about his maneuvers, and so that in case if the orders are in national language, he can follow. If the orders are what they had agreed in their plan during their master pilot exchange. It will never come to an international communication between tug and ship.
Okay, and Håkan, please go ahead.
Yes, maybe not so much to do with captains and pilots, at least in Sweden, when the PEC holders, the pilot exemption certificate holders, if they are driving within the fairways, for example, by themselves and going alongside, of course, by themselves, but for some reason they need a tugboat, then they are required to take a pilot, so that we are the one controlling or telling the tugboat what to do. But they can get exemption from that as well, and then they have examination with us on board, and they meet the tugboat captains of the tugboats that are normally coming there, and so they learn about order giving and what everyone have been mentioning here, what capabilities of different type of tugs and so on. Just an idea how we do it in Sweden, at least.
Okay, I think it was Georg and then Boris.
I'm very sorry, I missed this raise the hand tools on my Zoom, so I have to do it verbally. Yeah, I think I have to quote myself. In courses, we always say, first of all, you need to have a common plan, pilot and captain. And when you have a common plan, then you can start to monitor what is going on. And only if you know the plan and you monitor it, the captain can see or the pilot can see when you start to deviate from your original plan. And in almost all casualty assessments, what you're doing, you see that there is a certain start point from where many small things start to go wrong or not in the planned way, and then lead to the final impact, let's say. So it's essential for a captain to understand what is going on. It's essential for a pilot to inform the captain what is the plan and what he's doing, and also there are points where you have to deviate from your plan because you realize during the maneuver that this original plan is not matching. So then, of course, you have to do something and you have to communicate. And it's not only about tug commands in any language. It's also the pure knowledge of a captain that if a tug is in a certain position, this and that will happen. And also that you need to be guided to a point where you start to question the pilot and say, listen, this is totally different from what we have planned. And please tell me what is going on. And this is not necessarily meaning that we are running into an accident. It's just an exchange of informations. And this can only happen if everybody is, let's say, on an equal level from the knowledge. And this is very important for me. And this is what we always try to give officers in the seminar, that you don't have to be too critical, but you have to monitor what is going on. And this is also a safety for the pilot, because sometimes everybody is a human and mistakes happen. And if somebody says to you, hey, we have discussed this before, then maybe you're suddenly brought back to your plan and you can avoid anything. And I think this is the essential point in the whole discussion.
Okay, I think it was Boris and then Anders and then Frank.
Thank you. Yeah, we passed several aspects that are quite relevant for us. So again, from the perspective of a tug master, regarding, or let's step with the first one, that was, if we add tugs to the maneuver, of course, it gets more complicated. It gets more risky. Absolutely right. It can get more safe, but it becomes complex. Absolutely right. Then we talked about the propulsion type. That's something we Georg can confirm in several simulations. It's a very interesting topic. Of course, there is an advantage of a void tug on the bow or forward, let's say forward, and it's more easy for an AST in the stern. But in the end, of course, we have to deliver, and that's operationally for the pilot a defined and a reliable force in a defined direction. So that's our aim, of course. Doesn't matter what master, what kind of tug, of course. Then it's good to have a mutual understanding. Okay, what kind of tug is it? But not all the time you can trust there's a pilot or a master that has any idea that the void going backwards or whatever behind and there's wash from the propeller might get in difficulties. So that's something we train our tug masters, that they are aware they can come into a difficult position, not convenient position with their tug, and still they have to perform. It's quite complicated. Based on that, of course, the language, the communication, I would say never touch a running system. So be very careful with that. Right now, in several ports, we have common, mutual, agreed type of commands that work. If you touch that, we could end up in danger. So that's very a topic we carefully have to check. Then last but not least, I would like to highlight again, Mr. Friedsam knows it, Georg knows it. The tug, most of the time in a maneuver, the tug itself is in a very dangerous situation all the time. It has to control it. We are the smallest vessel. We are in a very dynamic situation. We are depending on an external force, that's the tow wire. So it's very dynamic, it's very dangerous, and you have to react quickly. So that's why we need understanding for us, what's going on with us down below on the tow wire.
Thank you. I think it was Anders and then Frank.
Yeah, if you come to the plan, I was talking about this. It's very important for me as a master anyway, when I was out to have some kind of knowledge of the plan when we come forward. But what I always have tried to ask for and never got is, why can't we have the plan, I mean, in advance by email or whatever? So we don't need to be on the bridge when it's dark. They come up, the pilot, and everything is stressed, and so that is one thing that I'm missing when I was a master, that have the plan in advance. I can look in the plan very easily, and then we can just agree when the pilot come up to the bridge.
Okay, thank you, Anders. And Frank?
No, actually, Boris already took it up a little bit, but about this plan and about the safety tug operation, that you keep everybody. Everybody is talking about this communication, but that you keep everybody up to date what is happening, is if something is deviating from the plan, that you have discussed it with the tugboats earlier, and when you arrive as a pilot on board, that you when if the captain has something, that you also inform the tugboats about the changes in the plan. So this communication is essential for a safe tug operation, in my opinion.
Thank you, Frank. And I see Christoph, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I like that idea, and I have seen it in some ports in the world, that you can get the berthing plan in advance, so that early before you arrive, you can share this plan and discuss it with the entire bridge team, because it's not only the master or the chief mate on the bridge during maneuvering, it's also the mates who are on the station forward and aft, who are part of this berthing or unberthing operation, and the more they know, the better they can communicate, and if they are aware of the berthing plan, it helps quite a lot. For example, on the container vessel, you even don't see the forward and aft station, you even don't see the forward tug. But if your mate reports the tug position back, you can judge how long it may take until the tug is on the other side, and you can discuss it with the pilot. So yeah, communication is the key, but the more people are aware of what's going on, they can communicate, and this makes it definitely more safe.
Great. And I see Rudy's hand up.
Yes, this is correct. I see it from university and researchers' perspective. Yes, I think it's a very important that there is a time for the master and also for the pilot to become familiar, and especially if the harbor pilot boards the vessel, then in a lot of ports, immediately after 2 or 3 minutes there is action required. And so all what we are talking about, discuss, explain, challenge and response, this will be under extremely time pressure, and so some items may skip. And I suggest in Australia they're on the way to this, and also now after several years, because it's an important part, the manufacturers of the ACTIS systems, they now agreed a standard format which can be read by every ACTIS, despite if it's now Wärtsilä or if it's Furuno, and which would also make it it's another step for an exchange in advance. The problem might be if you share the information in advance, you never might know which pilot at least will board the vessel. So this will be, for example, something which is not in this included in the system. But I agree that we might use our digital formats we have in the future more for better preparation, to that if they meet the first time, they really can share questions and not all the standard stuff.
Okay, thank you. And you correctly noted on the dynamic situation and time pressure. We are also a bit time pressured here, Håkan, and then Captain Fritzen.
Yes, on mentioning international standards, the last 5 years I've been working with this SDM project, and that's what I'm still working with actually. And as it was said, some of the ACTIS manufacturers are now being able to share their routes, and they're also being able to receive other routes from other ships or other organizations. So like in Sweden and actually also in Finland and shortly the whole Norwegian coast, if a ship shares a route with the pilot route service, they will get a route back. Now we're not talking about maybe maneuvering alongside. That's for like in Stockholm when I have been piloting, it's not so much about the maneuvering alongside. The most risky part is the archipelago, which is 4 or 5 hours. So to have that route on board and a common knowledge about on the way in. So we, as Rudolf was mentioning, it's discuss the important parts, not the standard stuff. But yeah. So and it could also be not only a route sent back, maybe a mooring plan or whatever. I think that's a good idea, and it's coming shortly.
Yeah,
Thank
sounds very promising. And Captain Fritzam, the last comment before we move on to the next topic.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I fully agree that the most important is preparation and communication. From the pilot's view, or a harbor pilot's view, especially as we are going on board, let's say shortly before the interesting part starts, the mooring, we normally do not have too much time, but we have enough time to make a proper master pilot exchange, where the key or the let's say the main problems can be, or the main topics can be addressed, which are for most maneuvers always the same, and all this can be prepared. And when we come to special maneuvers, like when we go for a dry dock or so on, then I would always recommend that captains send an email in advance so that they can get additional information and this can be done definitely in every port, either directly with the pilot company or your agent.
Okay, thank you. And then the last part here, safe mooring. What to consider, and what modern solutions do we see? This is more like the technical mooring, not so much about the occupational safety, but the vacuum mooring and the different types of lines and the auto moorings and that kind of thing. And I know that Frank, you have been heavily involved in these new technologies, and if you would go first, and then we here take the round table again.
Okay, I don't have actually. That was a little bit wrong info. I have not so much experience. I think I don't know about this Wallenius guys if they have more experience from that, because I have only been a little bit looking at the planning point of view, but they were not installed before I left there. So maybe somebody else has more info about those vacuum systems.
Okay, and the vacuum was not that familiar, I gather. Rudy, you have your hand up.
Yes, sorry, I always have to look for my mouse. Yeah, I only just say from a general perspective that mooring becomes more important, and that first of all, every ship owner can reflect on the standards in the tanker industry. And I also want to point out that we will have some SOLAS amendments in the future, which will also give some mandatory requirements regarding mooring, and especially in regard to maintenance of the mooring lines, because up to now this topic mooring is not really covered in international instruments. It's more or less in the accident prevention part, but it will become in 2024 part of the next SOLAS amendments, and every ship owner should prepare because 2024 is coming faster than we might expect.
Yeah, thank you. And shipping industry is always very proactive when there are new changes, and you have to adapt to new fuels and what have you. And I know that Per and Anders, you have had a long experience, and also I know your company has worked a long time with the safe mooring concepts, both on the technical side and also experimenting with different lines and the concepts of, for example, strong wind, current, and would you share some of what is the latest, what you know, and what would you like to share with the panel?
Yeah, the latest is that we are, I mean, we are looking on the, of course, the new regulation will come 2024. So the latest now is that we are looking how we can, how we can see how the lines is working. I mean, to see the lines, the working time on the line is that when you have the line out, And that is one thing that we are looking on now. How can we calculate this? It have nothing to do that the line have been on the drum for 5 years. It have to do with how many times we have used the line with a high tension on the line. And another thing is that we are at the moment have done a new process, I would say, or guidelines for the crew, how we should work with the lines and also etc. And we have also take out helps for the master to calculate how many lines they should have out in case of the wind and so far. So of course we are working a lot with it. And Per, you maybe have some more.
I'm not so good on the regulations and new coming rules, but my experience about mooring, especially in Wallenius, I have been interested in this for a long time because we have problem, especially with the lines, all my career in Wallenius. We have, in my opinion, fairleads that is not correct according to the lines we have. In the beginning, we have these ordinary lines, and they were broken a lot of times, even that it was not so much wind. This Atlas rope we have in the beginning, and a lot of times they was broken in the fairlead. And I complained for a long time in the company, and for a very long time nothing happens. The moorings arrangement have been more or less the same during all my years in this company. But some years ago, I have 2 times that all line was broken when we was alongside and we was drifting away from the berths. And after that, we got new mooring lines. So now we have really good mooring lines. And one also what we learned, lesson learned, was the winches. That before we have no test of the brake force, so the brake force on the winches was totally too much. So when we was alongside and it coming and strong winds, instead to that the lines was sliding a little bit, they was cut in the fairleads. So, but new the last years, we have been much more interested in our company, and now when we have changed lines and working with this company that deliver our ropes, that have been not so much incidents the last year. So it's interesting this with the lines anyway.
Okay, thank you. We have still time for 2 quick comments. I see Michael here, you have your hand up, and I would actually like to ask Boris for your perspective on the last comment that on the lines and the cycle times, the line cycles. I think on a tugboat you also have, it affects you. But Michael, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. This is a subject I could talk for more than we have time left here. It is unfortunately seen that there are fundamental parts are missing, both shoreside and on board ships when we order lines, and then they find something that is cheaper and we have another type, other lines, and then the ships start to mix them. And do we really know how to check the lines, how they are? And then was it Anders mentioned a fundamental part there, that how do we can have a line can be 10 years old or 5 years old, but how much have you used the line and the lines, and how often have they stretched to their maximum? Offshore, where I worked a little bit on a shuttle tanker, we measured how many times the lines were stretched to the maximum. We allowed maximum 3 times, and then the line has to be changed. And I was not on board, but I have been on a ship. My reliever was there when lines that looked really, really good, and they were very strong. Unfortunately, after the mooring operation was done, engine stopped, one line snapped, nothing else happened. Why? Well, it's just theory, and we should not speculate here. And the crew member died, and the line looked good. There is so many things. Do we even know the windage area, wind load of the ship when we decide of the lines? Do we know the safe working load? Do we just go with the MBL and then we forget that the safe working load should be maybe only 50% or 60% of that? But that is only going for new lines. There's so many things. But then also the important thing: do we know the SWL of the bollards ashore? They might look fantastic. And I was in a Scandinavian port when I finally came from Caribbean, and they looked best. I was so happy to be there, and the pilots agreed. We left the port, and our sister vessel 3 days later on broke a bollard, and they found out that the bollard was fastened only in the asphalt because the waves had eaten up the structure of the pier underneath, and they had not paid attention to that. If they are rusty, if they look bad, we know that they are not good. But when they look fantastic and they break like that, you might be taken by surprise. But this subject, there's so many things that we could talk about, and I'm passionate about it. But that was my comment, that we should have in the future maybe some thing on the winches that we could measure how often do we come to the maximum stretching of the line or the maximum MBL. So then we know that, hey, after 3-4 times, maybe we should consider to change the line.
Thank you, Michael. That will be our next webinar, so stay tuned. Good. And Boris, I think on a tugboat you must have a system because you stretch your lines all the time. And how do you do that?
Yes, of course. Regarding our towing lines, of course we count the usage. So we count the jobs we do with the same line. We have an overview at which age in the sense of how many jobs we should change the line. And then also we plot the power tension, of course. So in that way, we are a bit ahead of mooring lines, of course. For us, it's essential. We need to know, and we want to avoid that the line and towing line breaks. It's not only endangering the crew, it's also endangering the whole maneuver, of course. So we have to avoid that. And then maybe another idea as we talk about safety here. You said, let's talk about technical aspects, but there's one aspect, of course, I still want to mention, and that's the line handling, of course. The line handling for us is essential. So how's the line handling on the back, on the foredeck, on the aftdeck of the assisted vessel? Can we rely on that? Is the communication clear? Is it safe for them what they do? We had an incident 2 years ago where an AB on board of an assisted vessel lost a couple of fingers while connecting our towing wire, and the communication wasn't clear on the foredeck. For us, we became a clear signal, but on their foredeck they didn't interact properly. So it was a several incident, and so line quality, of course, is important. That's something I think there is improvement in the market, and there will come something also on a vessel to count jobs and to count tension, because we have it already. But still, we have, since all these years, we have to focus back on seamanship. It will never disappear. In the end, it's always seamanship. We have to count on and rely on.
Okay, thank you. Counting on seamanship, that's a very good closing comment on our webinar. We are almost run out of the time, and you have been such a great expert. We don't have any questions from the audience, so everything you have said has been taken 100% as truth and seriously. And thank you so much for participation. Thank you for your time and valuable insights. And I'm really looking forward to the next webinar. Please go ahead, Johanna.
Thank you, everybody. I will finish today's webinar by reminding you that the lessons we have learned here today and all the lessons that we learn in our industry every day is the key to a safer industry. Thank you, panelists, moderator, and all our attendees. Remember also to download and take a good look at our loss prevention app. And please stay for a minute if you want to know more about this app. thank you everybody for a great webinar today.
Shipping is a challenging industry and the sea can be tough. Fortunately, we sailors stick together.
Jag har testat den här appen som Alandia tagit fram och tänkte kommentera lite grann. Jag tycker att appen verkar väldigt bra och jag tror att vi kommer ha användning för den i vår verksamhet.
Accidents, injuries and near misses happen. Knowledge of them needs to be mobilized so that we can learn from these situations.
First impression of the app is very positive. The app has many useful functions and I believe that the most useful for us would be the safety observation module.
Download Alandia's new loss prevention application. It provides real-time reporting of accidents and near-miss situations. The information gathered will help prevent damage in advance. The app is really easy to use and it helps your crew to stay up-to-date in safety matters by using gamification, storytelling and other mind-supporting strategies.
The app enhances two-way communications in situations where insurance will be involved, and the app enables easier and more accessibility to contact Alandia.
Manage your company's risks with Loss Prevention app. Please contact with Alandia to get access to your loss prevention app.